Thank you, Susan. All right, it is 7 o'clock, so we would get started with our work session this evening. We were scheduled to have an interview tonight, but we've been informed that he will not be able to attend. So we'll just go right into going over the agenda. Terry, if you want to take it away.
Sure. Good evening. We'll start with licenses. And we have a couple of licenses on the agenda, pretty straightforward. One is for Shepherd's Run for the holiday sales, dance, and tourist accommodation licenses. I do expect Mr. Schoen to be here for that, if you have any questions. We also have a holiday sales license for Frills of Galilee, a retail boutique, and we would expect that the applicant would also be here, Elizabeth DiBiasio. We have under communications a proclamation from the town of Bristol declaring October Dysautonomia Month. I don't know if I pronounced that right. That is a condition having to deal with the nervous system and multiple conditions. So the council can decide what they'd like to do with that. Item D is a communication from a resident on Sweet Allen Farm Road related to speeding. Just for the council's information, I have referred that to the chief, and you're aware that the police department has been ramping up attention to speeding on various roadways. This is something that is common. And Chief has a system in place. They've really amped up the attention to speeding on various roadways and have used the equipment that they have available to them that produces reports that can provide data to support one way or another if there is a chronic issue on a particular roadway. So they'll be continuing that. That's gone to the traffic sergeant to be able to put some attention onto Sweet Allen Farm Road. So that's where we are with that. Item F are emails from a resident related to free-roaming chickens and turkeys from her next-door neighbor, and is seeking some assistance and has requested that the town consider something to help them in terms of keeping the animals on the owner's property. As you recall, there was some, back in February of 2020, this particular topic had come up, and at that time the council did not take any action beyond referring it, I believe, to the planning board for further discussion. I don't know, Mike, if you want to add anything to that from a ordinance standpoint?
So it was not only in 2020, but a few years prior. Was it 2011? Susan's got the date. I remember Ella Whaley was on the council then. This also came up. And if you were to even, and I don't suggest you do, because I believe this is a civil trespass situation between two neighbors, because if you were to even consider doing a townwide ordinance, you would have to, by law, notify everyone in town that's registered as a farmer. And when we did this back in 2011, I believe, we had overflow. So my opinion is, whether it's this or something else, unless there's a town-wide problem, it's really not appropriate to adopt an ordinance for one situation. But my thoughts, but again, if you were going to do more, you would have to invoke the Farm Act and notify everyone about it.
And Mike, I remember, obviously it wasn't chickens, but we had a complaint about bees going from one property to the neighboring property a few years ago, maybe. And that was it was similar. Civil trespass is
Right.
really the only.
Yes.
Yeah.
Any other questions on that?
So I wanted to go back to just for similarity's sake, dogs need to be contained within one's yard, within one's fence. So could we not have some sort of middle-of-the-road ordinance where people are containing their animals within their own property? It just seems in 2020 or 2019, there was a similar situation where the woman said the chickens were all over her deck and she was having to clean her deck just to enjoy her own home. And so that's where it kind of, I don't really mind what anybody does in their own yard, but when there's poop in your yard, you do kind of find it to be troublesome.
Most towns do not have townwide ordinances on this. Could you contemplate one? Of course you could. But again, the process you have to go through, I remember it all too well. You will find that a lot of people will give a contrary view based on my prior experience with exactly this issue. And I believe it was over roosters.
It was the sound of roosters in 2011. It was
Right.
the crowing. This is not, I mean, it's very different. Sound traveling versus you're putting pollutant on your...
And then the other issue, of course, is one of enforcement. If you were to adopt such an ordinance, you then need to have an enforcement mechanism in place to deal with it. And that takes time and resources. So, yeah, I mean, I think it's unfortunate that two neighbors are not getting along or one neighbor is not doing the right thing. But there are ways of dealing with that outside of a town ordinance because it's trespass.
Like the last time we talked about this, 2 years ago maybe, we had a ordinance before us that was going to limit the number of chickens, right? We had a full house about that.
Yes, we did.
Learned a whole lot about show chickens, things I never knew about before. And that didn't pass the council. The council did not take any action on that.
No, it did
But
not.
that was about limiting the number of chickens, I
Correct.
believe. This would be different, which would be containing the animals right on your property. You can have 400 of them as long as they stay on your property.
Stay in
This is
the
a
coop,
different
right? Stay in their own
take
chicken
to
coop.
me than what we did last time. I sympathize with this woman. I also agree with you that it's probably a civil situation, but I would be interested in seeing if other towns have an ordinance that contains the chickens, not limits the number of them. Contain dogs.
I am more than happy to look into that. When we did research on that in the past, there were very few, if any.
Yeah.
Because, again, the practical considerations of enforcement are really, really difficult because you put an ordinance in place and then someone's going to call someone here at Town Hall and say, his or her chickens are on my property, come do something about it. But what is that going to look like?
We have an animal control officer, right? We do employ someone who is supposed to take care of these things. Again, I don't feel strongly about it either way, but I would like to see if things are happening in other towns that are enforceable.
I'm more than happy to provide that information to you at the next meeting.
Thank you.
Mike, I also have some questions and perhaps a suggestion. Should we go into it further now, or wait until we get to that point in the agenda? Or
No, I think,
I'm happy to ask them now. Or
no, ask now. It's fine.
So I see both sides of this. I'm a chicken owner, and if you have ever driven by my street and seen me trying to catch the things to get them back into their run when they're out, it's a sight, to say the least. But that being said, I keep them in my yard. I keep them penned. At what point does someone's inability to keep their animals contained to the point where they're destroying someone's property, to me, that's malicious damage, which is a misdemeanor.
That's right. They could prosecute that in court. It's a
So-
civil matter.
Is this something as simple as we advise this resident to make a complaint with the police department for malicious damage?
Yeah,
I mean, we can take that case
so
by
here's-
case without an ordinance,
here's the
but
problem. Well, malicious damage, whether or not that would fall under that, to report it to the police means it has to be a criminal offense, right? The police can't bring charges unless there is a statute on the books that basically say, and I have never, and I've been prosecuting for almost 40 years, I've never seen a malicious damage issue brought up in the context of animals, right? Whether it be a cow, a chicken, a dog. I mean, there's a whole set of laws, obviously, for dogs, vicious dogs, et cetera, which is a whole set of statutory precepts that you can work on. So my advice would be to talk to a lawyer to bring a civil trespass lawsuit, is what my thought would be. But again, I'm more than happy to share with you, again, from research I've done in the past, what other municipalities do. But I assure you there's another side to the story. There
Well-
really is.
So I'm sort of the mindset, like Deb said, we have animal control. I mean, if my dog was running loose, someone could scoop him up, report him, and scoop him.
That's correct.
And so I would like to have any person who has an issue, I mean, it's not one chicken, it's a lot of chickens and it's turkeys, and, the email's really compelling to read it, and I would feel terribly if somebody was injured trying to shoo them away and they had come to our attention. We know there's a problem and we should try to do something to help. We should give a tool. If the tool is to call animal control, and maybe that's what we do, I think the mere fact that we're having this conversation, I think, is going to raise the awareness in the community, and most people are going to do what's right. But then we have no tool for the person who says, I don't care about you, and I'm going to do what I want. So I just feel like it's not fun, and it's not easy, but I think that's why we're here, because we need to do what's right. That's all.
Again, I'll provide you at the next meeting with some options. I'll certainly bring up the work that we did in the past. And if you are going to go forward with something like this, we'd have to set a specific public hearing date and do that notification that I'm telling you about.
Were you just saying that the reason we can sort of control dogs is because there's specific state statutes around dogs? Okay.
Yeah, dogs have a very different, person's best. I was going to say man's best friend, but that's kind of sexist now. So person's best friend and all of that.
Mike, I got some property law questions relating to this. At what point does a chicken become a domesticated animal that's owned by an owner? As opposed to, normally I would think a chicken is a wild animal whereby once it enters onto another person's property, it's claimable by anybody.
Oh, I'm not aware of that at all.
Initial allocation of property?
I am not aware of any law that says if once a chicken leaves their own property that it becomes fair game for anyone to take or shoot or whatever.
So could in theory a resident capture those chickens and turkeys and keep them, or do they?
Well, I don't think that would be a good idea because it's someone else's personal property. So,
How would they know? I guess how would they know? They'd have to trespass to see the chicken, right? It's the absurd. I think so. That's why I feel like we just need to rise above it and try to come up with something that either raises awareness, changes people's behavior, or put something in place that changes behaviors. That's just me. I wouldn't want to live next to 500 chickens.
if you refer this to my office tonight, and again, I'll come back to you with It won't take me long because we've got all the past research.
Thank you, Mike.
Did we go through all the agenda?
No, I think
I'm sorry?
that was F. So on to I.
Communication up. Oh, communication I is an email from a resident concerning traffic issues involving the delivery trucks at Liberty Wine and Spirits. If you've read the email, you know the resident has taken a photo of a delivery truck that was parked for a delivery around the time of school letting out. And from the photo, it appears that that delivery truck was coming in from Kingstown Road, not Kersey Road. Just for a little bit of backup, I do have the special use permit that was issued to Liberty Wine and Spirits in April of 2020 with regard to standards of relief, and part of that centers around egress and ingress to the two parking lots. One parking lot is on Kingstown Road, the other is on Kersey Road, and according to the delivery, and I'll ask Jamie if I'm not right on this, that it appears that Kersey Road was identified as the entrance and egress for delivery trucks because they could pull in and out without having to back out onto Kersey Road. It appears, and I could be wrong because I can't exactly tell from the photo, I had the chief look at it as well, that the truck had pulled in from Kingstown Road. So there could be just a correction that needs to be made in terms of which way these delivery trucks are coming in to the parking lot. But that's the background information on that. And I think the business owner is here this evening as well, so he may want to comment on it at public when it comes up if the council chooses. Any other questions? Okay, we have under appointments, we were to have an interview this evening, but as Council President Collins mentioned, that particular applicant could not be here. We do have a zoning board potential appointment. Susan, if you want to just go over that with the council in terms of the detail.
Okay. Typically, well, you know that Richard Jerzak put in his resignation, which is effective October 1st, which is Friday. That'll leave a full member vacancy. We do have Susan Walsh sitting in the alternate one position. You interviewed her and appointed her in April. She is willing to serve in that full member capacity, so you would certainly be within your powers to appoint her tonight, which will leave 2 vacancies in the alternate positions. You do have a candidate who will be interviewed on October 12th for the zoning board.
Thank you.
And then the other appointment proposed is to appoint alternate members from each party for the canvassing authority. I believe the council has the applications or the recommendations from each party to be able to, if you so choose, appoint those alternate members this evening. Any questions on that?
Did you send us that?
Susan, do you have, I believe that was sent in a previous packet.
I didn't see.
Yeah, there should be a memo.
I mean,
We've never appointed alternates before, so we haven't interviewed I think the Republican Party sent us 5 names, and I think it would be hard-pressed for me to decide. I don't, without any interviews. Is that,
Well, under state law, the town committees are supposed to make nominations to you, and you are supposed to appoint from the nominations. They did indicate their first choice in their list of 5, but it's up to you whether you want to bring them in for interviews.
all right, thank you.
That memo was dated September 20th, and it was to me from the town clerk, appointment of alternate members of Board of Canvassers. Any other questions on appointments?
Can you resend it? I don't have,
Okay.
I have other things that day, but not that.
Okay, under new business, most of these items are recommended bid awards, most from John Schock, who is here with us this evening, unless there's something in particular in any of these items that you have a question on. Why don't we start there? Is there anything that anyone has a question on the B, C, D, item E? Those are all public services recommendations related to chemicals, bid award, and 2, one is a payloader and another is, I'm sorry, item B is a resolution for an order of notice regarding the Middlebridge sewer area to incorporate a portion of the tax assessor's plat 43-1 into the Middlebridge sewer area. And if you have any questions on that, John is here and can certainly address those. Okay, if we skip down to item F, this is a resolution authorizing the chief of police to execute a memorandum of agreement with the Providence Center for an amount not to exceed $20,000 for services covered by the agreement, which involves the Crisis Intervention Team Program, which is ongoing with the police department, and that will continue from October 1 through June 30th. That is the contract period. And of course, Chief is here if you have any questions on that item.
I do have, I read that from the Providence Center. I know it's funding one position, 37 and a half hours, and it's shared among many communities. How will that really work? Because that's not the number of hours in a week. So I didn't know how that clinician would work.
So, as indicated, we have a mental health clinician from the Providence Center, and the funding for that program was coming to an end. She still embeds with our police department, goes on patrol with us when she can. She's spread pretty thin. She's between the other municipalities that are mentioned here, North Kingstown, Richmond, Westerly, and Narragansett. And what we do is she has set hours that she comes and visits each police department and goes out, handles any issues that we have. If a call comes in while she's there, she responds out with us to try to intervene and do what she can do for the person in crisis. So basically what I was looking at is just sharing the cost of her salary spread through the other municipalities.
So does she do like one day in each municipality? Because crises don't happen only on Tuesdays, so
Right.
I just didn't know how we...
So basically, on Tuesday, she comes and visits us. Surprisingly
Sorry,
enough,
I didn't know
Tuesdays.
that. I just threw out
But
1
it
out of
is-
7.
It is Tuesdays. Sometimes those hours fluctuate depending on what we have going on. She could get called away to another municipality that dealing with an emergency, so she might go there. Like I said, she is pulled in a lot of directions, and she does her best to have standard hours with us, which is 1 day a week. And we're hoping down the road that we'll be able to grow this program with the Providence Center to hire additional clinicians and to spend more time here in South Kingstown as opposed to just a day or a half day, whatever she can do. The program is working excellently. She goes out all the time with our officers, and I think it's making a pretty substantial impact on the community.
Yeah, I just, thank you, because I
Yeah.
read the memo, I just didn't know how we shared that person.
Yep.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And just to continue quickly, item G is a bid award for a vehicle for the EMS department. That's an admin vehicle, and the vehicle it's replacing will be kept in the fleet as a backup vehicle. And Craig, Chief Stanley is here to explain if you have questions on any details on that particular recommendation. And then, I'm out of time here. We have a recommendation for an award of bid for a dump truck replacement with a snowplow as well. That's also through the Public Services Department. Item I is a resolution authorizing the town clerk for an order of notice, of public notice for a public hearing relative to Chapter 10, motor vehicles and traffic, and it has to do with adding stop signs to Abbey Road and Winter Street. So that is in your packets from the Director of Planning. And then finally, item J is for the Town Council to consider an award for a vendor to provide executive search services.
Any questions on the agenda or anything else at this point? All right. That being the case, we'll just take a 5-minute recess here before we begin the regular meeting at 7:30.
Oh. Which one, the? Did they not get it?
Yeah.
Right, 'cause I thought I saw people nodding, so, okay. Okay, good, thanks, Colleen. Right. Oh.
I looked at my, I don't have that. I can never find those things. Because look, I don't see it.
That's after.
Yeah. I can't hear anything you're saying, Suzanne. Oh, they have 5 on the list. So Sean says,
Deb? All right. Susan, we ready? Susan? Hello, everyone. Welcome to this meeting of the South Kingstown Town Council. It is Monday, September 27th, 2021. The time is 7:30. Our first order of business is the pledge to the flag. Please rise and join us. Thank you. And will the clerk please take the roll?
Council President Collins,
Here.
Council Vice President McEntee,
Here.
Councilwoman Bergner,
Here.
Councilwoman Kelso,
Here.
Councilwoman Rose.
Here.
All members are present.
Thank you. Before we go on, I did want to thank everybody for coming here tonight. I notice many of you wearing masks. I think that is good, cautious behavior. If you want a mask, we are providing them over on the table as you enter where the agendas are. So if you're watching at home and that is a concern of yours, we do believe in people taking proper precautions. Please do feel free to come to our council chambers and feel safe. All right, with that, let's move on to item 4, the approval of minutes of previous meetings.
Rory McEntee, I'll make a motion to approve 4A and B.
I'll second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Is there any discussion? Is there anyone opposed? All right, that motion carries unanimously. Item 5 is the consent agenda.
Rory McEntee, I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
A second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any discussion?
Yes. Could we please pull off item C, the email from Susan Marcus regarding the Saugatucket project?
Let's see. So a motion to amend and remove item C from the consent agenda. Do I hear a second?
Second.
So moved. Any discussion on this amendment? Anyone opposed? All right, that motion carries unanimously. All right, so do I hear a motion on item 5 as amended? Or we have a motion on item 5 as amended. And
So item C under
communications, I
communications.
believe.
Okay, so it's not the consent agenda. We're
Oh,
approving.
sorry. It is.
Yeah, we're on to the consent
We're
agenda.
approving the consent agenda.
Now we are approving the consent, yes, everything except for that one.
So I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
All right, any further discussion on the consent agenda? Anyone opposed? That motion carries unanimously. That brings us to item 6, licenses. 6A is a resolution granting holiday sales, dance, and tourist accommodation licenses to Shepherd's Run, doing business as Shepherd's Run, of Tower Hill Road in Wakefield for 10 guest rooms. Application by Ryan Schoen. Is Ryan here? Ryan, please come forward.
Hello, everybody.
Hello, welcome back. So, yeah, I mean, obviously there's been a lot of fanfare, but tell us more.
Yeah, no, we're obviously really excited. It's I mean, the community has been incredibly welcoming, so I just want to thank everybody, and obviously also just wanted to have the opportunity to thank the staff that you guys have put together here and the whole council. Everyone has been incredibly professional, even with things I don't agree with. You know, it's still done very professionally, which I really, really appreciate. Having worked in a lot of areas, other communities before, I must say a lot of communities are not like that, and so I think that's a testament to how this board operates. So appreciate that. Yeah, so it's a 10-room operation. We are not opening the restaurant at this time. I know we put it under the liquor division. That's going to be a future phase. we need to bring in a little bit of money before we can continue the development. Obviously, the overall goal is to have about 34 guest rooms by the time we're all done, but right now it's just 10 to start with.
Any questions from the applicant? Do I hear a motion?
I had a question.
Sure.
So I know that you're having weddings. They're absolutely beautiful. I've been stalking all the pictures. I just wanted to clarify, was that a different license that just didn't come before the council? Because I don't remember that. So just was curious if that fell under a different area.
So the weddings are actually Blackstone Catering, so they have a catering license to perform those. And then we also have a farm winery license that's issued by the state of Rhode Island.
Okay. I just was
Yeah,
curious.
no, believe me, the licensing process in this state is quite difficult, especially with a complicated project like this where we have, several different operations. I learned we needed a dance license just recently, which part of what we're coming in for.
It just looks beautiful. So.
But thank you. Appreciate it.
Rory McEntee, I'll make a motion to approve 6A.
Deb Bergner, I'll second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any further discussion? All right, is there anyone opposed? That motion carries unanimously. Congratulations, good luck.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
6B is a resolution granting a holiday sales license to Frills of Galilee of South County Commons Way. Application by Elizabeth DiBiasio.
Hi.
Welcome.
Do you want me to just say about the store?
Yeah, well, state your name for the record, even though, and then just tell us, about.
My name is Elizabeth Ann DiBiasio. I have run Frills of Galilee in Galilee for 3 years. I bought it off of Rosalind Burke, who had it down there for 24 years before that. And we sell, clothing and jewelry and gifts. And this year, the building that we were in got bought by Atlantic Crab. Or I guess I changed it to Narragansett Crab. So he has, he's not sure what he's going to be doing with the building because of DEM standards. He has to bring it up. So he might have to do some tearing down and get permits. So it wouldn't be available, so we needed a different place, and we thought we had been just seasonal. We thought we'd go to South County Commons, open up a full year, take a big step, and that's it. I hope it works out.
Very good. Any questions?
When will you be opening?
October 1st.
This week?
Yes. We've been working very, very hard. Hopefully this passes, or we'll be opening later.
Right in time for URI Parents Weekend, so they'll be all in shopping with you.
Oh, good. Thanks. Oh, that's good to know.
Make a motion to approve 6B.
I'll second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any further discussion? Anyone opposed? All right, that motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Good luck. And that brings us to item 7, communication. 7A is a proclamation adopted by the Bristol Town Council declaring the month of October to be Dysautonomia Awareness Month. It has been received. What would we like to do with this one?
I'll make a motion that we approve 7A and announce the month of October to be the Awareness Month here in question on the agenda.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion, we have a second. Any further discussion? Is there anyone opposed? Oh, that motion carries unanimously. And that brings us to 7C, an email dated September 13th, 2021 from Susan Marcus providing an announcement of a public meeting sponsored by the Economic Development Committee regarding the Saugatucket Park and River scheduled for September 21st at the CTC. I don't see Susan here. Deb, did you want to?
Yeah, I had a chance to attend, and I know Councilwoman Kelso was there, so I just wanted to learn about what the next steps were and share for the community. I know it was in the local papers. There was 40 to 50 residents from all over. It seemed like a very engaged and positive conversation happening. So I just didn't know where we were, what the next steps were, and I wanted to have the opportunity, have the community hear it as well.
Sure. So the EDC, along with the Recreation Commission, have been collaborating on specifically improvements at Saugatucket Park. Both commissions or committees are very involved in seeing that park and the surrounding watershed close to the park be improved for a number of reasons. Obviously, one, for recreational purposes, and two, from the EDC's standpoint, connecting it in a better way to Main Street so that there's more of a fluid connection between the park across the river to Main Street and the businesses on Main Street. One of the items that is on the docket is a grant that was technical grant that was awarded by SNEP, and I believe the council that came across the council's agenda about a month or so ago. It was awarded, and it was awarded for a technical assistance in order to train staff to learn more about approaches to stormwater management in the watershed area, and also to clean up the river edges with riparian buffer restoration, so that there's a better view of the river. There's obviously a better connect to Main Street, and so we are poised to sign a memorandum of understanding with SNEP to provide those technical services and training in order to start that process and ultimately come up with a plan for identifying a location in or around the park for stormwater management that would help the park. It would also lend towards improving the whole area for connection, both on a economic level and also a recreational level, to see that the park is best utilized and good for the community. So that's it in a nutshell. And the Recreation Commission is aware of it. They supported the Economic Development Commission's efforts to kind of broaden the scope of improving the area for the economy. So that's where it's at.
Thank you.
At this moment.
Any other discussion on this item? I did note we got a notification from DEM about another round of their rec grant program. I don't know if that's, I know we were talking about, the basketball court area over there. Maybe we could pull in some of that grant money as well, obviously.
Yes, we actually have a DEM grant just for that purpose already. And obviously the Rec Commission and the Parks and Recreation Department are looking at other opportunities to be able to apply for funding, whether it's Saugatucket Park or another park.
Great. All right, do I hear a motion on 7C?
Motion to accept item 7C.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Is there any further discussion? Anyone opposed? All right, that motion carries unanimously. 7D is an email dated September 14th, 2021 from Darren Pierce regarding traffic concerns on Sweet Allen Farm Road. Is Mr. Pierce here? All right. Do I hear any discussion, a motion on this?
I make a motion to accept item 7D. We also, I think we referred in the work session to working with the police and identifying some areas in speeding in town. So this would be part of the regular attention that we spend in trying to change traffic patterns and reduce speeding in that area. So with that, we accept item 7D.
Second.
We have a motion. We have a second. Any further discussion? Anyone opposed? All right, that motion carries unanimously. That brings us to 7F, emails dated September 16th and 19th from Denise Mann concerning her neighbor's free-roaming chickens and turkeys. We had a little bit of a discussion in the work session around this. First, is Denise here by any chance?
Both here.
Very nervous. I beseech you to help me with this problem. Even if there isn't an existing ordinance in another municipality, maybe we could make history. There's always one person that overdoes something. And next year, I wouldn't be surprised if he has goats and cows and they're coming in my property. He has his animals for financial gain, and he's letting them feed on our property. He's destroying the chickens and turkeys, and I'm afraid of birds, and I have, like, one day, 11 turkeys flying at me. They're destroying my flower beds and my grass, and but the most heartbreaking thing was we have an electric water for my dog, Boundaries, and the chickens coming over the boundary, and my 14-year-old dog who has arthritis, to see him just pot him out, and we thought we were going to have to put him down. It's like he can't go out in the yard, and we're always constantly chasing them, and I'm afraid my husband's going to have a heart attack over this. You know, it's just, and I have nothing against chickens. I just don't want any in my yard, and I need help, and I can't afford a lawyer. We're retired. So I beseech for help.
All right. Thank you.
If we could make history. Thank you.
And yes, I don't know if this would be making history. We'll see. I think one of the things we talked about in the work session, Mike, is you're going to do some research.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I'm actually looking now on my computer at the ordinances we put before the council in early 2020. So I have them. I'll put them together with a memo. You'll have this on your next council agenda for consideration, and from there you'll give me direction on where you want to go with it. Back in 2011, we also sent something similar to the planning board for their input, et cetera. So I can, in my memo, I'll give you, the steps one would have to take, and we'll give you all the options, and then you can decide which directions you want to go in.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Can I make a motion?
Sure.
Like, I have questions for you in regard to that.
Yeah, okay, so the motion would be to refer it, right?
Motion
Oh, you
to
got
be-
questions, I'm sorry.
I have a question as to if we do add it to the agenda for the next meeting, the actions that can be taken would be limited to not making any amendments, not making any changes to the language, but would be to issue notice to have a public hearing at a subsequent meeting for which we would consider whether to enact it or not?
That's right. So what you would have to do is, I'll give you, your options. If you want to pursue them, you're exactly right. We would have to set up a public hearing and give notice to all of the registered farm owners in the town of South Kingstown so that they're aware of what is being proposed, so they have the right to be here like anyone else when you have that discussion. But we would have to go through the normal process of adopting an ordinance.
I won't support that being on the next council meeting's agenda. I'd prefer just to have that memorandum in our possession at some time after you've done research and we
Right,
consider it.
that's what my
have it put on
suggestion-
agenda at some time subsequently.
Right. You have the memo for the next meeting with your options. And
Not placed on the agenda. That's what I prefer.
Well, the actual ordinance itself would not be on the agenda for action. It would simply be on the agenda to decide whether or not you even want to move forward with it.
Yes.
That's what we'll do. And if a majority of you want to move forward with it, then we'll set a public hearing at a future date.
My position is I will not support this motion if it intends to put this on the next agenda for us to consider whether to issue a public hearing relative to enact it at a subsequent meeting.
Should we add this to the agenda so that we can speak, or?
Well, it's on.
this is-
It's on the
All right.
agenda, so you're good.
So I'm just going to walk slowly. So it sounds like he's going to do some research, say, here are all the things you can do. And that the next meeting, we could say, In 4 weeks, we could have a public hearing. We don't have to have it in 2 weeks from, like 1 month from now.
That's correct.
That's what you would prefer. You don't want to rush.
I'd prefer it to not be placed on the agenda at the next meeting in any way. I'd
Then how will it
I'd like
give
it
us-
to be sent to us via the town solicitor for our consideration, and then at some point subsequently, we can decide by a majority to have it on an agenda, and at that point, if we want to, by a majority vote, have a notice of a public hearing, to have it at a subsequent meeting, for which then we can decide whether to enact it or not.
But that's fine. But if he gives us that to us, and I write an email to the town council email and say, I would like to discuss the chicken options, it could happen anyway. Okay, I'm just trying to understand, is it the timing that you don't want to talk about it right away?
I
Or-
think something like this has a vast effect across all of town, specifically farmers. It's a critical industry in our town, and I don't think it should be placed in then 2 weeks from now in front of us as to whether we think we should have a public hearing in the future from that time as to whether to consider enacting an ordinance. I think it's too soon.
Okay, I'm just trying to I just was trying to understand that part. But we don't have to have the public hearing in 4 weeks. We could have it May 15th. Right. But we just want him to give us the information in 2 weeks.
So,
One option, and I kind of alluded to it, the last time this happened, the action the council actually took was to refer it to the planning board for input. So that's just another option also. And obviously, if you were to refer it to the planning board for their input, that would give more time before it ultimately came back to you. But just to throw that out.
So let me just see if there's maybe a middle path here. I mean, you write memos to us that we get, and we see in between meetings, and they just appear on the manager's report. So could we have maybe the memo come to us via email whenever it's prepared? It'll be part of the manager's report. We'll have time to review it ourselves. And then any one of us can, of course, request to have an agenda item at a subsequent meeting based off of what's in that memo. I think that's sort of what Rory's getting at. Is that? I mean, it'll be publicly available through the town manager's report, if that's a concern.
Then at the next meeting, we could decide at that point in time to have it on the following meeting's agenda, and then at that point, we can decide when, if at all, to have a public hearing relative to it to potentially enact it or not.
In essence, you'd be putting it off to the second meeting in October instead of the first meeting in October.
So, Rory, your intent here is to have enough time to review, digest what is sent to you from the solicitor's office to make an informed decision on whether you want to proceed with any of the... That's your intent. Then I hear you. Then I'm happy to give that to you.
So the motion that I was going to make actually didn't include any of that. I was looking for something that would allow us to help Mr. and Mrs. Mann out a little bit more quickly. So I was going to move that we refer this to the animal control officer. If anybody wants to add to that motion, I'm happy to do that, but I think that something needs to be done right now. I mean, how are we all going to feel if one of them falls tomorrow morning chasing 12 turkeys off of their property that don't belong there? Do you want that on your conscience? Because I do not.
Nope. Is that something we could do? Can we direct the animal control officer to visit the neighbor?
So you certainly could ask the animal control officer to look into it, and I'll certainly work with the animal control officer with regard to any tools that we currently have to at least have the animal control officer make a visit, talk to the neighbor, etc. But the way to be very effective would be to actually enact an ordinance. But maybe, Jess, what you do is refer to both me and the animal control officer. And that way, I can be putting together this memo we're talking about, which we can certainly put on the manager's report, so you have that. And I am more than happy to work with the animal control officer to see what, if anything, can be done in the meantime.
So I'll amend my motion and move that we refer this matter to both the town solicitor and to the animal control officer.
Second.
All right, we have a motion, we have a second. Further discussion? I just want to bring up one point, which is that I don't think that this is an issue that's confined to fowl, but probably all animals. Is that, I mean, we're talking about, you know, what right now is civil trespass of people's pets or other animals onto neighboring lands. So even if we consider an ordinance at some point, we would want it broad enough that it covers, yeah, not just
Well,
farm animals.
based upon what I've looked at, what's out there are ordinances specifically with regard to fowl. And that's because there's some state law on fowl, et cetera. And I don't know, it might get a little dicey to try and expand it beyond to other animals. So the problem you appear to have before you involved chickens, turkeys, roosters, whatever, fowl. So my thought would be to keep it to fowl. We've already got a set of laws on the books for dogs, so we don't have to worry about that. If there's a dog issue, the animal control officer absolutely can deal with that. Just my thoughts.
Okay.
And, you know, when you get this and you look at it, it's fair to then discuss anything else that you may think would make it stronger, better for the community, whatever.
I just have another question, and perhaps Chief Ewing Chow, you can answer this for me. Because Mr. and Mrs. Mann are here and they have stated they can't afford a lawyer at this point, is this something where that they can, I mean, their property is being damaged. Would this fall under malicious damage of property?
I don't believe we could actually charge anyone with maldamage. We have animals that are getting out and doing the damage. It's not a person or an individual. So I don't think we would be able to successfully prosecute the owner of that animal for malicious damage. What I could suggest, though, with the animal control, this is the first that I've heard of the situation, and certainly our animal control officer could go out, try to speak with the neighbor, gather up some information, maybe document the damage that's going on. The problem being is that there's nothing in our ordinances that gives the animal control officer any type of power to do anything. So if this persists and continues, our hands are really tied, other than documenting and moving forward with potentially an ordinance through Mr. Ursul's office.
Thank you. I just wanted to get as many questions answered for them here as we can.
Okay.
Could I ask a question?
Chief?
So if,
Is it of the chief?
no, it's not for the
Okay,
chief.
so, no.
I don't think it's for the chief. It's for Mike. You're good.
Oh, I'm good?
You're good. Oh, okay. You want, go ahead, Rory, since he's...
Chief, I'd just like to ask you, are there any criminal charges for which you could pursue relative to this matter?
In terms of the chickens damaging the property?
Any criminal charge whatsoever related to the chickens either trespassing or damaging property?
None that I can think of right now.
Got it.
None.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So the process, I have never enacted an ordinance, so I'm just trying to understand. Eventually, we would have a public hearing. Do we have to have two public hearings on an ordinance?
Just one.
Just one? I don't know why. Maybe because the school committee has 2 second readings. So we only have to have one public hearing
Right.
on a proposed ordinance. We could pass the ordinance, and it could have any effective date.
It can, and what is important, though, to keep in mind, we'd certainly have to have an advertisement, just like this evening you're going to have an advertisement for adoption of an ordinance regarding parking or traffic. So you would do that at one meeting and have the hearing at the subsequent meeting. The difference here is that under the Farm Act, because this involves farm animals, we have on record, I think it's through DEM, but we have on a list of everyone who's registered as a farm owner or a farmer here in town. In addition to the normal newspaper ad, we have to send individual notice to them, letting them know when the actual hearing date is.
Okay. Okay.
That's the difference.
And you had said in the work session, I didn't know if I heard you correctly, 400 farms, or did I hear it?
No, I never said 400.
Oh.
You know, Susan, have any idea?
Hard of hearing. But you didn't say 400.
No, I never said 400, nope.
Thank you.
And the other important thing to keep in mind as we discuss formulating ordinances is that they can't run afoul of any state statute. You know, we have to basically do what we're authorized to do by the state, and we can't enact any ordinances that are contravening state statute. So,
Thanks.
And I can tell you right now that what I'd be proposing to you would not run afoul of a state ordinance. No pun intended.
Very funny, because they're running.
All right, so we have a motion, we have a second. Any further discussion? Anyone opposed? All right, that motion carries unanimously. Look forward to hearing more, Mike. Item I is an email dated September 22nd, 2021 from Rebecca Downing concerning traffic issues involving delivery trucks at Liberty Wine and Spirits. I do not believe Rebecca is here, but I do see we have the owners of Liberty Wine and Spirits, so are you familiar with the photograph in question at this point?
Yes, I am. Thank you for having me tonight. I'm Joe Paglia, one of the owners of Liberty Wine and Spirits, along with my brother John. And I'm very familiar with the photo. The day in question, when that delivery truck pulled up, I just happened to be in back, and I came out, and make a long story short, because you got a busy night. When I came out, I told the driver he had to back the truck up a little further, and he said, a police officer just drove by, gave him the thumbs up. I couldn't see the front of the truck. Well, I could, but I didn't know he was blocking the walkway. All fairness to the police officer, I don't think he knew the truck was going to be there that long, so it's no one's fault but my own fault. So to correct the situation, any truck that comes into the lot, I called Centrex last week already when I heard about the email. They are not going to send 18-wheelers down any longer. The normal truck that they're going to use is a typical box truck, which you're probably all familiar with. On the Kingston side, the plan that you probably saw, what we did is, if you're on the Kingston side, so the truck has the ability, because they come from towards the Rotary, and they come around that way. They never come from URI, or they usually don't come from by the school, because they have certain routes that they do. So I think I get the delivery after Sweeney's. So when they come around the Rotary, when they used to drop off at Patsy's, they'd go around the Rotary, park in the street, unload. So now they come through the Rotary, come up Kingston, come around where the bike path is. So we have the ability of what we did is we pushed where Joe used to have the tractors parked on the front of the thing. So that was all paved at one point. So what we did is we pushed the curbstones 14 feet or 13 feet. So now that truck has the ability to actually pull in my lot and then back up. Actually, doesn't even have to back up that much, and then use the side door, on-ramp, and then pull out without any turning around on the street, without worrying about pulling down near the school, without worrying about Browse Builders having to move trucks. They do park on the property when we're open, and I have no problem with Browse having trucks there. That day, like I said, it was just it won't happen. I'm telling you right now, it will not happen again. Budweiser has smaller trucks. Centrex has the ability to deliver in smaller trucks, which Deb knows from her days at the Coast Guard House. We don't need an 18-wheeler dropping off product at the store. And that particular day, there was an 18-wheeler. Hopefully that answers what's going on. But there's actually more room now with the edge of my property towards Tilecraft in the front towards Kersey than there is from where Browse Builders is to the edge of the grass. There's actually more room for the truck to actually maneuver. And in this case, very little little driving that the truck has to do. A couple times there were deliveries. I'm not sure if it was Pepsi, but Pepsi happened to go down that way. And when the school lets out, if you're a delivery truck, you're stuck. You're not going anywhere. So they actually prefer the Kingston side is actually a safer route for the trucks. Budweiser's been notified, and Centrex has been notified. Pepsi is usually always a small truck. There won't be trucks to that size in that parking lot again. We can contain any truck or delivery on Kingston side without having to affect anybody. Hopefully that answered anyone's concerned. Which, that should not have happened, and it won't happen again, I'm telling you right now.
I appreciate you coming in to explain it. Debbie?
I just wanted to make a couple of comments. I did have a talk with Joe after we got the email last week, because, you can see that the truck is blocking the sidewalk and the road. So I just want to make the point that they've been in that location 2 weeks. And I think they'll be able to work the bugs out. We had a good discussion, Joe and I, about, the challenges there. And the challenges there are big during that pickup time for Peacedale School.
I never realized it was to that extent.
And especially on a rainy day. And that happened to be a rainy day. And, I think the owner is here. He's recognized the problem. Like I say, he's been open 2 weeks. I think he deserves a chance to work the bugs out. And if the bugs aren't worked out, then we'll have you back.
That's right.
Right? But I firmly believe that you understand the issues and are addressing them.
Absolutely understand. I have 4 kids in the elementary school and high school, junior high school now. My wife does pick up. Actually, we had a couple of customers parked in the parking lot on the Kersey side, and it just must have been just a bad day for pickup or whatever it may have been, but they couldn't get out of the parking lot because there were so many cars backed up to pick up their people, and people parked in the neighboring businesses and my business. And I don't want to have to be that person the first 2 weeks in business to say you can't park in the parking lot, because one, it just doesn't look good no matter how I say it. And the safety concern is the kids cutting across the parking lot at the time of, never mind a delivery truck or just everyday business. So we definitely have some bugs to work out. I try to be outside at the time of pickup, just to have somebody out there to kind of help things along the best I can. Anybody who has, and I know people can see this out in South Kingston, if there is ever an issue with Liberty Wine and Spirits, please come to me. I've been in the restaurant business 25 years in Narragansett. I'm very approachable. You don't have to go to social media. Knock on the door, walk in the door. I'm very approachable. I'll listen to you, and I'll listen to your concerns, because I get it. When I called Centrex, the first thing they said to me goes, I told them about the school. They said, Joe, the kids are priority. And I agreed. I said, the kids are priority. I said, I can't have a truck to that size coming down and, try to maneuver in and out of that parking lot. So again, like I said, the person who made the complaint, I know this person. She worked at a neighboring restaurant. I think what bothers me more is that she didn't just come to me, because I would have listened to her, because it is a concern, and I don't want to start off, the business that way. I actually know Becky because she is the stepdaughter of Gary Denunzi, who I bought the liquor store from. She was a customer of mine, or is a customer of mine, so I don't understand why she would, or anyone would. Just like I said, come in and talk to me and my brother, and we'd be glad to help anything. We want to be a part of this community for a long time. Arturo Joe sponsors Little League teams. My son actually plays for South Kingston on 2 teams right now. He's at Old Mountain Field. So I'm not just a business owner in South Kingston. I'm part of South Kingston. Hopefully that clears things up.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Any other questions for Joe?
Hey, Joe, how are you?
Good.
I just wanted to acknowledge that as a parent, when I saw those pictures, I was like, oh my God, this is crazy.
Yep.
This can't happen. It seems that you've been proactive, and as a parent, I appreciate that.
Yep.
I hope that going forward, we don't have to be back here. And I just want to reiterate, the kids are over there,
Yep.
are a top priority. And I hope that they continue to be that for you guys as well.
Yep.
Thank you for your actions thus far, and hope to see things continue into the future.
Yeah, we
Safely.
Thank you. Thanks for the question. My brother's a builder also, so we put a lot of time and thought into that corner, and we wanted to it took a while to open, but we wanted to do it right. We want to make sure that people would drive by and say, wow. I mean, I get it, it's a liquor store, I get it, but we wanted to, we think it's a little bit, it's a nice store. No offense to any stores in the area. We want to make it where it's a comfortable feel, it's eye-appealing. We're not going to go crazy with banners and stuff like that. We understand there's a school across the street. Those kids probably don't even know what the store is, which is good. But like I said, we tried hard to make it, a building that is on the corner and says, wow, you guys did a nice job, and we will run that place and, hopefully not be here again. But I caution the council, I just want to make sure that there are other 18-wheelers that deliver to that area, and I don't want to say, hey, I don't want somebody getting confused and say there was an 18-wheeler, dropping off whatever. I don't want to say out of business. But there are other trucks in the area, and I just don't want to have you guys get a letter or a picture and it's not one of my trucks. That's all. Please call me and I'll address anything, because there are deliveries on both sides of me that do happen.
I thank you for coming. You do make some big picture points that we need to think about, that there are other businesses there with large trucks. Do we need to contact those business owners and make sure that they're parking appropriately, or they have a plan? Because I can see you now being attributed with all the problems.
Yeah.
And then the second thing is, it sounds like, and I haven't been through the Peacedale School area during drop-off or pickup, it sounds very congested and busy. And so what are we doing in terms of communication with the school to make sure that parents aren't using your great parking spaces to expedite their pickup and removal of their child? There's the sidewalk there, there's the brand-new green grass. So we want to we don't want it to look not nice.
Right.
So how do we do that? How do we communicate with those parents? Because then I can't remember what the Peacedale parking lot cost, but I know it went over budget as it was. And so I thought that whole point of that was redesigning some of the lines and things. And I'm confused on why. I know why they're parking other places, but they shouldn't be parking in a business who's trying to attract customers, and they're taking up all the spots so people just drive on by.
If I may answer, from the first week we opened, the first week was, oh my God, what's happening? There were cars everywhere. Till now, it seems like the school is doing a better job. And again, this is just from me looking on the outside. I know Kingston Pizza sent a letter to the school committee and the school board saying, please don't have, because he came over to us and said, what's going on? And I said, that's the school. They park and do pickup. But Kingston Pizza was closed because they had no staff. So they were closed end of August through September. So he opened up after school started. And when school started, he's like, what's going on? So I think he sent a letter, and then I'm pretty sure the principal of the school sent something out to all the parents saying, please respect Kingston Pizza in their parking lot and other businesses in the area. So we weren't named, but she did say other businesses. And again, I'm not trying, like I said, there's no easy way to walk outside and say, please don't park here to pick your child up, because it's not coming out right, no matter how I say it. And I'm sure some people got upset. And again, that's not what I want. I'm a parent, and I get it. As I say, it's been 3 years. The location we just left, it's night and day safer. I mean, I don't know how a couple times people come around the Rotary and the truck's unloading in the street, you know. And actually, tomorrow's our 3rd-year anniversary. Happy anniversary.
I do know that an email did go out this week again to the students' families, asking them not to go through the parking lot, even the students walking, to not walk through that specific parking lot. And knowing the schools there, somebody said to me, because I try to stay off social media. Someone said, oh yeah, it looks like all the people are hanging out over there too and loitering. There's no loitering going on at the liquor store. It's not happening. It was already made clear to a few people that do hang out in Peacedale, and that, that's their right. They can, hang out. That wasn't my property where I was. This is my property or our property. There'll be no loitering or hanging out. Some people take a little longer to get in and out. And there is because it's perception. We don't need people hanging out in the parking lot in front of the store or whatever it may be. I did tell somebody that there's a bus stop on the corner, so people do wait at the bus stop. There's nothing I can do about that. But people just have to step back and look and see what's going on over there. Come in the store and see what we're all about, and you'll see a big difference, and I think most of you will be very happy.
All right. Any other questions? Do I hear a motion?
I make a motion to accept item I.
Is your microphone on, Deb?
7I.
Is your microphone on, Deb? I couldn't hear you.
Yeah, I made a motion to accept item 7I.
Second.
All right, we have a motion, we have a second. Any further discussion? Anyone opposed? All right, very good. That motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
Keep up the good work.
Real quick with the chickens. So I'm on the zoning board in Narragansett, and I couldn't help. I have to say something. We had the same thing that came up in Narragansett, and homeowners wanted to have chickens, and I think the ordinance is 4 per homeowner. So I don't know if they're neighboring a homeowner or not, but it was a planning zone. It ended up in front of the zoning board. And I don't know if they're residential or the people next to them are residential, but there's a number that residents can have, if that helps in any way.
Thank you. All right, that brings... Yes. Let that be the kickoff point for item 8, comments from interested citizens. If you would like to say something, come up to the podium. It's first come, first serve. We do have a 5-minute speaking limit.
Hi, I'm Nicole Solis. So you can hear me, Deb. I'm here to talk about whether Abel Collins betrayed his constituency and possibly violated the open meetings law. He had a secret conversation about whether to bring charges against Linda Savastano and whether the town would cooperate. Of course, we all know the town is not pursuing charges against the now resigned Superintendent Savastano for violating FERPA. But what we don't know, because Abel Collins had a secret conversation with who knows, we'll see if he answers my questions at the end of this. He had a secret conversation saying he would not cooperate if charges were brought against Linda Savastano on committing a computer crime. The police have enough evidence to file charges against Linda Savastano for committing a computer crime when she deleted her entire computer during the official investigation of the town. She wiped her computer clean to cover up her crime. I gave the evidence to the state police. They can bring charges against her. The town, or at least Abel Collins, who is speaking for the town, I don't know if he had the power to do this, said the town would not cooperate as a victim. They said, we will not cooperate if you charge Linda Savastano with a computer crime, even though you have enough evidence to bring charges. So we're talking about bringing criminal charges against someone for chickens, but you don't want to bring criminal charges against a superintendent who had a crime that harmed children. Charging Linda Savastano with a computer crime is the only way to bring justice to the families that she harmed. And you, Abel Collins, secretly told the police that the town would not cooperate. Why? And how do you think you have this power to do that? You're not king of the United States of South Kingstown. You're a president of a town council. You don't get to have executive powers over whether you're going to cooperate with criminal charges with the state police and the attorney general. Now, what would happen? She would most likely be found guilty, and she'd have to pay a fine. It's a first offense. She's not going to go to jail. So you pay a fine. And what, you don't like money? You don't want some money to make your town know that you care about accountability? The school district doesn't have enough money to pay for paper for the students. Linda Savastano committed a crime in her official capacity on the school computer with the school email. Then she took her money and ran because she got paid her full salary. And now the town doesn't have enough, we don't have enough money to give our kids paper? But Linda Savastano has enough money to get paid to commit a crime and get off scot-free? That's insane. Where is your moral compass? Where are your ethics? We want accountability. This is the only way to do it. And you said no, and you said it secretly. This should have been on an agenda. This should have been an item that we could all hear, and it should have been a vote about whether the town would participate. It's not up to Abel Collins. Detective Houston with the Rhode Island State Police called me today, and he said, Abel Collins said, I had a conversation. We decided that we weren't going to participate in a prosecution against Linda Savastano. When was that conversation? Who did you have it with? Was it a meeting? Was there a quorum?
This is not a question and answer.
It's not a question you're going to answer? Why not?
This is not a question and answer, period. This is.
But you have the power to answer me.
Now, excuse me. This is public comment unless a majority of the council adds this to the agenda. It's simply public comment.
I want to add it to the agenda. I want a review of your powers, and I'm calling for your resignation. This is the most important matter of public concern that has come across this town in a very long time, and you suppressed it. This whole town did an investigation on whether to bring criminal charges against her for violating FERPA. And then finally, when we can bring criminal charges against her and bring justice to the kids, you just secretly and quietly say no? How dare you? How dare you deprive the families of justice for their kids? Everyone should want to bring charges against her. She's going to be just fine. She'll go through a little bit of trouble, pay a little bit of money, and we can at least know that accountability is like maybe possible sometimes if people make you do your jobs with a little bit of ethical concern.
I'm sorry, but your time is up.
I'm just incredibly confused, and I would like an opportunity to discuss this. Can we take a vote to add this to the agenda?
Make a motion.
I move that we add this item to the agenda just so that we can speak.
Second.
I'd like to ask what exactly it is that you are asking to be added to the agenda.
I guess I would like further clarification about any communication with Detective Houston, anything that Nicole brought forward.
I mean, this is the first that I've heard of this, so I'm just confused.
I just feel like we can't talk about it, so we're sort of stuck if we don't add it to the agenda. And then it's 2 weeks from now.
This is fine. So we have a motion, we have a second. Do we have discussion? Okay. Is there anyone opposed to this motion?
I'm opposed.
Aye.
No, are you opposed, Rory, or are you adding it to the agenda?
I am opposed.
I am opposed.
I think we need to discuss it because it's ridiculous. So we have 2 opposed. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. So it's added to the agenda. Mike, I think perhaps you can elucidate some of this discussion. Following your report, somebody, I think Nicole here, must have given it to the Rhode Island State Police. Detective Houston was given charge of this case, I suppose, and he approached you and me to see what the town was going to do with the report. Are we going to follow up and press charges? And I don't know if you want to.
I don't think it was, that wasn't really the context, is the town going to follow up and press charges. He was given the report. He asked me several questions about the report. I simply answered, elucidating on the report and the actions that the council took in the investigation, et cetera. He said that he was checking to see if any statutes were violated. I replied to him that, certainly if you find that there's a criminal statute that has been violated, please let me know. I have not heard from him since. That was about 3 weeks ago.
Right, and that's around the same time that he approached, he called me. And I said we were going to have a meeting where we were going to have a chance to discuss the report, and I would talk to him after we had the discussion. That was the last council meeting. I spoke to him today and said that there was no follow-up action that the council had taken, and that was really the sum of my conversation with him. And I think I was accurate in that. I don't know what more there is to say, to be honest.
I guess I just feel like if the state police had come to any council member, that it would be appropriate for the rest of the council to be informed, given that this was such a big deal. And the goal really was transparency for me, and I just feel like this was not transparent. I had no idea that anybody from the council or from the town had spoken to the state police at all. I just am surprised.
At the time, I called Mike and I told him a detective had contacted me about the report. What was his advice? I took his advice to, tell him what the council did when we had the report, and that's what I did.
I guess I'm just confused because my understanding was that the scope of the investigation wasn't about investigating the criminal charges. We wanted to know what happened with the children's information. And that was a very limited scope of what we were looking at. We were trying to determine how the information that only could come from the school department got to someone to make a mailer. But I'm just confused about, I guess, what's the role of the town council president, because we didn't know that as a body that there was any conversation with the state police, and I didn't think that was, with all due respect, your role to be communicating, because we had talked in executive session about all the different things, but we didn't talk about that particular at all. So I'm just confused, and that's why I wanted to, and any conversation outside of the table would be an OMA, so I don't want to have that.
Right, yeah, that's part of certainly the way I thought of it. It's nothing that I asked for by any means. So I mean, this is the first time anything like this had happened in my time on the council. So I,
So
tried to be honest.
I wasn't
and
even
cautious.
aware that the detective was going to be calling Abel. When he talked to me, he simply said, I know your office conducted the investigation. Is there anything else that you came across outside of what was in the advice? He says, no. I said, everything's in there. I gave him my opinion that I didn't believe that any crime had been committed, that any criminal statute had been violated, that I absolutely said to him, however, based upon your review, if you believe that a criminal statute of some kind has been violated, please get back to me. It was less than a 2-minute conversation with me. When I say 2 minutes, I mean it was a fast conversation. Again, he didn't tell me that he'd be calling Abel at the time. Abel called me and let me know that the detective contacted him also as council president. That was kind of the end of it.
This all happened today? This all happened today?
No, this happened 3 weeks ago, like Mike said.
Yeah, I don't know what happened today.
And today, I had the follow-up conversation. I had told him that we were going to have a meeting where the report would be discussed, and I would let him know how that conversation went. And that's what I did.
So I just want to reassure myself that even if Abel said to the state police, we're not going to have an investigation, or we're not going to file any charges, the state police don't act on what Abel Collins or any member of this council says. If the state police felt like there was something criminal, right, they would pursue that.
No. You are not welcome to the microphone right now.
Deb told me I could.
My conversation.
She's not welcome.
I'm clarifying what you're saying.
No, I'm
No,
asking
you are not welcome. Go sit down, please.
Can I talk, Deb?
No, she does not have control of this meeting. You can sit down.
I can't stand here and listen? I can stand here.
Please do.
So, Mike, no matter if the state police called me and said, "Do you think there should be criminal charges?" or I don't have the power to,
of course not,
direct the state police to do anything.
Absolutely. Well,
that's the crux of this argument.
No, it's not.
That's true, though. Of
Miss,
any,
you need to sit down or go away from the microphone if you're going to have outbursts.
That's true of any law enforcement agency. The law enforcement agency makes the decision to charge or not to charge. A simple example is when the chief came up tonight and he was asked, can you charge the neighbor with something? And he said, no, but that's not a decision that we here make. That's law enforcement's issue. Now, we can turn things over to law enforcement, but the decision as to whether it actually has been a violation of the criminal law that's chargeable, that's up to the agency.
And everything we have discovered has been made public. Everything we discovered has been made public. So if the state police are interested, they have the report, as does everyone else. Right? It is not in the council's hands. We authorize a report. We had the solicitor conduct and draft the report, and we have made all of that public. The report on the investigation, we have made all of that public. Every member of the public knows what we know.
So
address the council, please.
I'm just curious because I'm not clear on if Nicole Solis is not misunderstanding what was communicated by the police. So that's why I would like to ask her to just communicate, because she believes that we have some maybe they miscommunicated. I'm just trying to understand it. I don't know what the truth is, but this woman seems quite convinced of something that's contrary to what you're saying, so I'm just trying to understand it. And I don't know how else to do it.
I think many of us are familiar with Ms. Solis's reputation and her predilection.
Oh, are you discriminating against me?
Wait,
You can go and sit down, ma'am.
I just,
They're not going to bring charges because you said you weren't going to cooperate.
You're out of order.
They're not bringing charges because you said you're not going to cooperate. The Attorney General doesn't bring charges on a case he thinks he's not going to win. And he's not going to win the case if you're telling him the town isn't going to cooperate. It's a political decision.
It wouldn't be,
It's not a legal decision.
it wouldn't be the town council
Okay.
making the decision to bring charges. I really got to, this is,
The state police and the AG bring charges. They
Exactly.
ask you if you'll cooperate as a victim. You said no. You have to cooperate as a victim because they will bring charges on your behalf that she committed a crime against the town of South Kingstown.
is that,
Is there a way that we can have her leave the room, please?
but is that accurate? I don't understand.
It is not accurate. She's here to
And I
create
have
some
the incident report.
controversy.
You can look
Obviously,
it up.
this is planned.
You can email the records department at the police station, and you can ask for this record.
work.
And the record number is for everyone to look up:
out of
21-RIX1-1360-OF as in Frank. Detective Houston told me this today. You're lying.
Please leave.
I'm just trying, I don't understand any of it.
Have a good night. All right. At this time, we can proceed with comments from interested citizens.
I'm Steve Corley, West Kingston, Rhode Island, and I just have three concerns. One is the exit of Upper College Road onto 138. They haven't put the dividing line in right now. It'd be nice if they moved it more towards the university sign. Makes it safer from buses coming from the 108 direction and swinging into Upper College Road to not swing into the outgoing lane. Gives the people who are trying to park at the library a little bit more room. So it's kind of a safety thing. And that big wide right lane is really not needed. The other thing with the university is the plan that's turned 25 acres of prime farmland into a industrial site. The town of South Kingston has 32 acres. Somebody is selling currently an industrial site on Fairgrounds Road, which used to be prime farm ground and no longer is. So it'd be good to, maybe we could talk the university into using. I think it'd be nice if the town went on record that they either support or they don't support that action and let the university know. And the last thing is the school budget. 2009, we had a new superintendent, probably say her name wrong, Superintendent Stringfellow. And she said we could shut the school down here. Sorry, I'm forgetting names, a little nervous. And she could save $850,000 a year and still provide the same level of education. Took 10 years for the school committee to come to grips with that was a good plan. And then all the hell broke loose. Now the school, we just voted on whether or not we could close the school. The school district told us we could close the school, and they had a plan to close the school. The only thing we're not changing is building a high school. So if the school can't come to you with a closed school this year, you ought to really think about holding their level of funding at zero. That's my 2 cents.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening. My name is Paula Whitford. I come to you tonight with some concerns about Liberty Wine and Spirits. A couple of weeks ago, just a week when the liquor store had opened up, I was driving in a car with my 12-year-old granddaughter, and she said to me, "Nana, what is wine and spirit?" And I explained to her that it was a liquor store. And she said to me, "A liquor store? The school is right there." And I said, "Yes, honey, the school is right there." So, how to explain What she thought, I really don't know. But she did say one thing. That's not cool. She didn't think it was cool that there was a liquor store so close to a school. The school being Peacedale Elementary School. After that, I went riding around our neighborhood, especially over there in that neighborhood, looking for signage of a school zone. That signage is only on one end of the school zone. And that signage is on the end of North Road and Kersey Road. That sign flashes when school is in session. When you get past the school, where the liquor store now sits, there is no signage. There's no signage going up Kingstown Road. There's no signage going past the bicycle path and Kingston Pizza into Peacedale. No signage. How is that possible? How is it that our school zone in Peacedale isn't marked? Why isn't it marked in all the perimeters? It's a safety hazard over there. It always has been. The traffic has always been congested for many years. People walking their children, people picking up their children. There's always been a parking issue of parents parking for kids that walk down off the hill. I'm having a hard time defining what is a license A and what is a license B. What consists of 200 feet? Is that because the school sits up on an incline and it's not on the main road, that it's not within those 200 feet boundaries? I'm not sure. I'm looking for clarity on that. And I'm sure that there's other parents in the community that may be looking for that as well. I am a mad mother. And my biggest concern is that a drunk driver would come in there and potentially cause a ripple effect that will affect the family and the whole community. And I want to know that this town, despite what the gentleman said when he was here, that there would be no more 18-wheeler deliveries, that are the front end of the vehicle is in the pocket, in the walkway of a crosswalk. I want to know that the town is going to hold him accountable to that and make sure that safety is first and foremost in that whole perimeter where those children need to walk to and from. I don't know what time it opens. I don't know what time it closes. But I do know what time school starts, and I do know what time school is dismissed. And during those times, we can't afford to be having big trucks congesting up the area even more, especially when we don't know who's pulling in and out of those parking lots. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can we just add that to the agenda so that Paula gets the information that she's seeking in her questions? So I move that we add discussion on the liquor store, Liberty Wine and Spirits, just to clarify some of the questions she had. The last meeting we were at, residents came forward, and by the time we got to it in the town manager's report, they had left. So I'm only concerned about that.
We have a motion.
Second?
We have a second. Is there anyone opposed? All right, that motion carries unanimously. Mike, if you want to clarify some of the stipulations there about what goes into getting a license.
The issue, the liquor store has what's called a Class A retailer's license. It means they can only sell alcohol that's bottled. You can't go there, open it, drink, and then leave. Doesn't prevent someone who may be drunk from going there to buy it, but the 200-foot rule with regard to being within 200 foot of a school only applies to Class B liquors, Class B licenses. Those are restaurants that serve alcohol bars, that type of thing, because the concern is because people are consuming open containers on the premises, there's that horrible possibility that something might happen when someone leaves. So that 200-foot rule only applies to restaurants and bars. It does not apply to what we call a package store, where you go in and buy closed liquor. So that's why it's legally able to be adjacent to a school. It may not be the best situation, but legally it's allowed in that zone. Now, are there other things that
just what the town has how does the town have the ability to hold him accountable to this trucking issue or delivery truck?
So in the zoning ordinance, in the zoning decision itself, the stipulation was that the trucks could only go in and out Kersey Road. So if in fact there's a future violation of that, then our zoning enforcement official can take action to hold the liquor store accountable. With regard to not having the 18-wheelers ever go there again, that was not in the decision. However, Mr. Paglia made that representation on the record at a council meeting, and certainly when his license comes up for renewal, as it will every November, you will have the ability to look back on the track record, so to speak, and decide whether or not you will continue to renew it.
Could you add a stipulation at November? If you decided that the 18-wheelers were continuing to come, could we say add a stipulation to that license at that point?
Right, at the time of renewal, correct.
Deb?
Yeah, this November, because all these licenses expire November 30th.
He did indicate that because he thought that that was a better option coming in from Kingstown Road, but the zoning decision was that the Kersey Road entrance and egress would allow for a truck not to have to back out based on the engineer's report on the zoning board decision. There's 2 parking lots.
I think there's a little back way that connects both sides of the parking. I don't know if there's a fence there. Okay, I don't know.
Highlighted area.
Does the zoning decision say in and out on Kersey Road, or in Kersey Road and out on Kingstown?
No.
So the intent was not to drive around the building and come out. The intent was the truck
Not according
to
to
go.
the zoning
It
board.
says
Seems
ingress,
totally unworkable to me.
ingress and egress for customers is on Kingstown Road. Those are for customers.
Yeah.
Whereas ingress and egress for delivery vehicle is on the side road, which is identified as Kersey Road.
So they would have to pull up sort of parallel, I mean, I don't.
He can't do that. His loading dock is on Kingstown Road.
Yeah.
I agree, but I think we have to make it clear when it comes up with his renewal. We need.
I was just going to say, when the renewal comes up with him, as long as, even though it's not in the zoning decision, if he agrees on the record as a condition of the renewal, it would then have the power of law behind it in terms of enforcement going forward. So my suggestion is that when these licenses are on your agenda, we do it the first week in November or second? The first week in November, we can address this specifically.
I just wanted to add a comment about the signage. I spoke with Representative Tanzi this week. She sent me a map of the area, like a GIS of the area, and asked if I would be willing to mark out like where the school zone is. I have not gotten to that this week. It's been a busy week, but I will do it this weekend. She is more than happy to take that to DOT since those are state roads and have that taken care of. So hopefully that helps.
Right. And any further discussion on this thing? All right. We'll go and return to comments from interested citizens again.
Jim O'Neill, Matunic. A lot of talk recently on the Saugatucket plans. When I joined the council in 2000, we were also discussing many plans, especially the ones that apparently, I don't know if they've been found, but Professor Green at URI, students spent a couple of semesters, I think, or more, hundreds of hours coming up with plans, and I haven't been able to find them or see them anywhere. But anyway, with the rescue plan and infrastructure plan looking like Rhode Island's going to have a lot of free money to spend, we really need to do a complete job on the Saugatucket plan. A lot of individual businesses have done a great job for entertainment as well as business, but we have to think about the school side of it. Will Wakefield be closed? Possibly. The park, very important. I think I learned that it might have even been an Olmsted park design. But the other thing, which all the businesses around me in town have wanted for years, is to bring those ornamental acorn inverted street lamps, which end at Dove and Distaff and Church of the Ascension. Bring them up to the Mews, cross the Smith Company, bring it down to the Stefano Brothers. You have the Wakefield Mill, so take it up to Pier Cleaners, back to the Ortho Group, included the park. Those lights would really be the anchor and really, I think, complete the Saugatucket plan. Hell, the river floats that way, so we might as well take advantage of it. But that would really, I know it's expensive, but the sidewalks do need refinishing. It would really give it a class act, and I think this is something that I know for all my years, 25 years on the street, that we've wanted to do. And the other reason to do it is, if you take a look at the employment for those companies. If you add up the Mews, everybody in the mill, all around there, going the other way does not have the satisfaction of the parking and the density of employees as well as customers. So I think that would be a deserving issue that the council should pursue. Secondly, the thing I wanted to bring up is something that I went through with years with Steve Alford, and maybe Mike Ursillo might remember it. Every year we would have to approach the president of URI, would you please let us know what you're doing? So I pick up Sunday's paper, see this monstrous plan of 25 acres, 1 million square feet, of a business, by the way, think milk, because there's going to be price controls down the road. But every state and every county, if you just read a Wall Street Journal everywhere, these buildings are going up everywhere. So don't let this game of a commercial enterprise on a nonprofit entity lease land. This is so wrong, so terrible. And the worst thing of all, the lady in charge of this thing said, who knew? We haven't heard about any opposition. Here's Mike Sullivan, DEM director for 15 years. What are you doing? Open space, prime farmland? What is going on here? And I've been through this time and time again with these folks up there. They never let us know until they've got a completed project. Therefore, they'll have the power of the General Assembly on their side, so on and so forth. But people have got to step up and realize what a monster this is. I don't think you know what a 1 million square foot building looks like. And that's not 3 stories like the American Power Conversion building, the Schneider building. This is one open 30-foot. It is monstrous. Amazon won't even be able to compete with that. That's going up in Johnston. But we've got to have a voice here. So, Abel, I would really appreciate it if you or I would come here and say that we apologize again, but we have got to inform this town of what our plans are. I mean, this is craziness. Absolutely. Believe me, it's going on every year. My first year in the council up there, 2000, president, same thing. Jim, Steve warned me, and year after year, we never got anywhere with the group up there because, believe me, how many tomatoes can you make when you start having dozens of these things in New England? It's just too much. All the small farmers we've been trying to help over the years, they'll have no reason to continue. How about the urban gardeners that were going to do all their work on city streets? No reason for them to continue. This is absolutely a knockout blow for any small enterprising someone who has good taste for vegetables and fruits. And I think it's a terrible plan, and the university should know that they have to talk to us and prepare us for situations like this. They're not exempt because they're using state property, because that's got to stop. Okay, thank you.
Good evening. I'm Greg Sweet. Last town council meeting, I had a number of questions with regards to the investigation. I haven't got answers yet. Do I send them in to you guys or to Mike or to whoever to get them answered? Because they weren't rhetorical questions.
We would need to add this to the agenda if we want to respond. Or Mike, if you feel free to respond.
I have no problem if the gentleman wants to email me questions about the report.
Okay. And the other thing, I was surprised to hear Nicole talk tonight. For me personally, as a resident, now I don't know which side is correct. You said what took place, and Nicole said what the state police said. I, for one, I don't know how we can prove it, but I'd like to see which version is correct. I think everybody would like to know. I would hate to think that we would tell the state police we would appreciate it if you didn't go any further with this. Do they listen? I have no idea. I don't know how that works. But I just hope that would not be the case. Thank you.
Thank you. Right. Seeing no more public comments, any comments here at the council table? All right. Seeing none, that brings us to the town manager's report.
Just a couple of items for the council's information. Item E on the town manager's report is a memo just to close the loop on the state-owned property at 100 Stonehenge. There was an offer made. The state has notified the town that the town has the first right of refusal on that property. As I mentioned in my memo at our last meeting, it was not recommended that the town consider purchase of the property. And what I'd like to be able to do is simply respond, if the council has no objections, respond back to the state that the town is not interested in the property. And then also, item H, you will note that there has been an invitation extended to President Parlange of University of Rhode Island to meet with the town council, and we are waiting to hear back from his office. We have had some contact with his office, but there have not been any dates set at this time. And then I've already spoken about the Saugatucket Park project with the EDC, and just briefly in terms of the American Rescue Plan funding, we are in the process of putting out to bid for a consultant for project management for the oversight of the projects that have been proposed to the council, specifically the projects related to improvements in the economic districts, where there would be engineering, design, grant development, that type of thing involved. We had carved out funding for that. Initially, it was proposed as a position to hire someone on. In review of that, it makes more sense for the town to be able to hire a firm that has multiple professional services available to the town, so that we can move forward with the execution of the spending plan program. So that's where we're currently at with the ARP funding. Unless the town has the council has any other questions, that's it for me.
Just the last thing you said was the project manager is for the park, the Old Mountain Field improvements. Or is it all of the economic? I just don't know if I heard the last words.
So that would be all of it. So if you may recall that there was, I believe it's $300,000 for a 2-year oversight. Initially, it was proposed for a single staff person to hire on to be project manager. In reviewing that, it's more beneficial to the town to have a firm that has multiple professional resources available to them. But that Old Mountain Field would be included in that in terms of moving that forward, but focus more on the tourism and travel industry and the villages, the economic areas of the villages, and also the grant programs that would be available to the small businesses in town as well, so that there's oversight and project management, so we keep moving those projects forward, because we have a 2-year time frame to commit the funding, and then another 2 years to see that it's executed.
I just think I just didn't hear the last sentence. Thank you.
Oh, okay.
It's my hearing that I can't. And then that. Yeah.
Any other questions from the manager? All right, very good. That brings us to item 10, appointments.
Rory McEntee, I'll make a resolution appointing Susan Welsh to the Zoning Board of Review.
Bergner, I'll second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any discussion?
Well, she is a member. We're just appointing her as a full member.
Promoting her to a full member. Okay. But I think that's understood.
For the full term, vacated by Rich Jerzak.
Susan, you got what we're trying to do here?
Full member on the zoning board.
Yes. All right, so we have a motion, we have a second. Any further discussion? Anyone opposed? All right, that motion carries unanimously.
This is Jess Rose. I'd like to create a resolution appointing Nate Merrill to the Waterfront Advisory Committee.
Second.
All right, we have a motion, we have a second. We did have an opportunity to interview Nate a little over a year ago for this position. I know that is not fresh probably in everyone's memories, but very interested candidate. Is there any discussion? Is there anyone?
We didn't interview him.
We did interview him, yes. It was July.
He was interviewed before he resubmitted his application.
Just we're not following the procedure, but it's fine. If you...
I know that Nate is very knowledgeable on all things waterfront, and he's expressed interest. So that's the basis for my suggestion.
Understood. So, further discussion? Is there anyone opposed to this motion? All right, that motion carries unanimously. 10B, not ready for that yet. All right, that carries us on to item 11, new business. 11B is a resolution authorizing the town clerk to advertise for order of notice a public hearing relative to expansion of the Middlebridge sewer area to incorporate a portion of Tax Assessor's Plan 43-1, Lot 1, into the Middlebridge sewer area, subject to the terms and conditions set forth in the Town Code, Chapter 19, Utilities, Article 2, Wastewater Management, Section 19-146, Special Area Sewer Assessments, Fees, and User Charges. John, would you mind coming up here and talking us through it? Evening.
So back in '92, there was a number of failed septic systems in the Middlebridge area. So the town, the property owners came to town asking for sewers, and the town created a special sewer district where all those properties were levied the specific cost benefit of the sewer system. And those liens have all been paid off now. They were 20-year liens. They've all expired. They've all been paid. So since this district was originally created, we've had a few, probably less than 6 new properties come in requesting connection to the sewers. What's before you tonight for advertisement is a larger parcel that they're looking to subdivide. So it's a policy decision for the council if you would so choose to increase the district by 1 unit. My opinion is if that lot were able to get a septic system, it's right on the river. Certainly you'd want the lot on sewers rather than a septic system. So if the council were so choose to approve it at the public hearing, they would be required to pay that original assessment, which was $1,659 plus interest back to the date that the district was created, plus the $1,800 system assessment charge. So again, this is just the advertisement. That's the history on the sewer district, but this is just before the council tonight for advertisement for a public hearing at a future meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I'll make a motion to approve item 11B.
Second.
So moved. Any discussion? Anyone opposed? All right, that motion carries unanimously. 11C is a resolution authorizing an award of bid to Monroe Tractor of Worcester, Mass. For a 2021 Case 721 GXR payloader in an amount not to exceed $151,116, further described in a memo from the Public Services Director to the Interim Town Manager dated September 14th.
Motion to approve item 11C.
Second.
So moved. Discussion? Anyone opposed? All right, that motion carries unanimously. 11D is a resolution rescinding an award of bid granted June 14th, 2021 to JCI Jones Chemicals of Sarasota, Florida for sodium bisulfite at the unit bid price of $1.50 per gallon, further detailed in a memo from the Public Services Director to the Interim Town Manager dated September 14th. We might want to take this one with item E, which is a resolution authorizing an award of bid to PVS Chemical Solutions of Detroit, Michigan for sodium bisulfite at the unit bid price of $1.63 per gallon, further detailed in a memo from the Public Services Director to the Interim Town Manager dated September 14th.
Rory McIntyre will make a motion to approve 11D and 11E.
Second.
So moved. Any discussion? Anyone opposed? All right, that motion carries. Item F is a resolution authorizing the police chief to execute a memorandum of agreement with the Providence Center of Providence for the period of performance October 1st, 2021 through June 30th, 2022, with payment to TPC in an amount not to exceed $20,000 for consideration of work and services covered by the agreement, further described in a memo from the police chief to the Interim Town Manager dated September 16th.
Rory McIntyre will make a motion to approve 11F.
I'll second.
So moved. Any discussion? Anyone opposed? All right, that motion carries unanimously. 11G is a resolution authorizing an award of bid to Liberty Chevrolet of Wakefield, Massachusetts for one 2022 Chevrolet Silverado pickup, 2500 HD Crew Cab 4x4, per bid specifications in an amount not to exceed $34,365, as further described in a memo from the Director of EMS to the interim town manager dated September 21st.
Rory McEntee, I'll make a motion to approve 11G.
Second.
So moved. Any discussion? Anyone opposed? All right, that motion carries unanimously. 11H is a resolution authorizing an award of bid to AT Northern Warwick of Warwick, Rhode Island for a 2023 International HV 607 dump truck with Viking dump body and Viking snowplow in an amount not to exceed $168,359, further described in a memo from the Public Services Director to the interim town manager dated September 22nd.
Rory McEntee, I'll make a motion to approve 11H.
Second.
So moved. Any discussion? Anyone opposed? All right, that motion carries unanimously. Item I is a resolution authorizing the town clerk to advertise for order of notice a public hearing relative to a proposed amendment to the town code, Chapter 10, Motor Vehicles and Traffic, as follows. Chapter 10, Motor Vehicles and Traffic, Article 1 in general. Section 10-12, Boulevard and Street Stop Signs designated. And this would add Abbey Road and Winter Street. Traffic stop on Abbey Road at the intersection.
Rory McEntee, I'll make a motion to approve 11I.
Second.
So moved. Any discussion? Anyone opposed? That motion carries unanimously. Item J, a resolution authorizing an award of contract to blank for executive search services for the position of town manager in accordance with specifications in bid SK 0002TM and in an amount not to exceed blank. So we had 3 respondents to our RFP. Happy to entertain discussion on those. We did see a rubric that was put together by town staff.
Okay, I'll start here. I'll just offer my perspective in reviewing the bids here. My first choice would be Municipal Resources, Inc. I like the fact that they have experience working with neighboring towns here in Rhode Island, including Westerly, East Greenwich, Middletown, and Portsmouth. I also like that their 2 principals have experience as town managers. I think that helps in their analysis of identifying who would be a good town manager and who fits within what we would like here. I also think that the general presentation within their bid, the pamphlet they've provided, is just, I think it's far more professional than the other 2. So in that regard, I also want to mention that the 30 years of experience is also something I consider. But for me, that one was definitely the top choice.
So I agree. My first choice would be MRI. My second choice was the Randy Frank group. I agree with Councilman McEntee. I like that the principals of this group all have extensive municipal experience. They're also New England-based. They're more readily accessible for in-person meetings, and they will come as often as we'd like. There's no limit on how many meetings they will attend with us. They also emphasized the interview process and helping us to formulate interview questions and their willingness to speak to whomever we would like to incorporate into the process. So my first choice is MRI. My second choice would be the Randy Frank group. That's the group that's located in Kentucky but used to be in Connecticut for a very long time, and this woman apparently graduated from URI and has a great deal of knowledge about URI in South Kingstown as she interned here in the late 70s. But again, that's my second choice. I feel confident in them as well, but I would vote first for the MRI group.
I also chose MRI as my first choice. I like how they are breaking down the interview process with several rounds, not just 2 rounds. They're local. I think that we need somebody who understands where we are, what we do, and, has a good understanding of this area. And I'll also echo, what both of you just said. I think it's a great choice.
So, a couple of things. I don't know if anyone noticed that both MRI and Randy Frank both at one point represented the town of Bloomfield, Connecticut in hiring their town manager. So I did a little research. It looks like one did it in 2019 and one is finishing it now because they had a town manager that only served for 13 months and then they let them go. So keeping that in mind, it was kind of an interesting piece of data. I did prefer MRI. However, there's a part of Randy Frank that I didn't know if we could include in the bid or the package, because what I liked is their offer of, I highlighted it, sugar pops, okay. In page 12, evaluation criteria, once the new town manager has been on board for 30 to 90 days or so, we will conduct a session with the town council and with the new town manager to establish mutual performance criteria and goals for the position as desired. I thought that was a really value-added piece, that perhaps if we didn't choose Randy Frank, that we would try to negotiate that piece in, because I think that's an area where we didn't necessarily identify, but that's a great insight that they had. And also they included, we will follow up with the town manager during the first year and assist in making any adjustments that may be necessary as desired. And I felt like that was a value-added piece that we didn't ask for that would be really helpful as we move forward. So I don't know if it's possible to pick one piece and add it to the other if we were going to negotiate with MRI, if that's where we landed. But that was what was unique about this, that put that presentation in a different light for me. I do agree that the town manager experience and all of that was in New England. Those three things were also resonating with me. So, but I wouldn't want to lose that key piece out of Randy Frank. So,
and so just to make it unanimous, MRI was my first choice as well. I do think they're going to be open to negotiating exactly how we want them to proceed with the process. I mean, if we're going to put extra work onto their workload, as they would say, they'd probably increase the contract price a little bit, or find some other place where they were not going to do as much. But I think that's all part of the process. So I think we can engage in that as we.
Did any of you find that to be uniquely interesting and helpful? Because that wasn't in any of the other two, so that's what stood out to me.
I think that's great, and I also when I'm looking at the breakdown here, the MRI does say that they can adjust charges for marketing materials based on what they already have. So if they can if they can take off a little bit, shave off a little bit there, and add it to something, like what's in the Randy application proposal, I think that would be ideal.
I don't know which one of them said they would adjust any of their fees. I think that was Randy Frank. That was this one? They
Right.
said.
Well,
I think they both said that.
Okay.
Both
They both said-
MRI and Randy Frank said that they will reduce pricing and adjust based upon what they already have.
Right. So my other thought, and I didn't know if I was off base, but because the bids were so similar in price, is it because were they provided with the average salary, so then it's about 15% of whatever we think the salary will be, or how?
My experience, just in general with these search firms, they always come in the middle 20s. That they must know what the market will bear out there.
Okay.
It's just my hypothesis, but I kind of predicted that this is where they'd come in.
Okay.
I want to say the last time we spent around 24. So
23.5. I looked it up today. It was
Okay,
23.5
23.5.
was the contract, which is what it is again, 4 years later. So.
Oh, no inflation. It's amazing.
I know.
Well, somebody said they reduced their prices. They also reduced the fee in general.
So what happens once we award this? What is the process?
So if you
In the contract with them is really what I'm asking you for.
If you award the bid, then I will work with the winning award bidder to incorporate some of the things that you just talked about this evening in terms of the follow-up. And they'll have a form of contract, of course, which then I'll review and mock up, and we'll put together a contract that would then, be able. If you vote on it tonight, you'll authorize it so that they literally can get started. I will obviously provide you with the actual contract.
All right, that being said.
So,
Question, Mike. If we vote to authorize you to write the contract to be executed, do we have to have a subsequent meeting where we decide that we would like to execute it, or giving you the authorization right now for you to execute in our
Totally
behalf?
up to you. I think because I did the last one, I'm very familiar with what's going to be in it. I feel pretty comfortable about, doing that on your behalf if you authorize me. If not, we could wait 2 weeks and it'll be back in front of you again. I think one of the other issues you need to address is the timing, because they talk about, 90 to 120 days, 90 days. MRI says 90 days. The other two say 90 to 120. My guess is you want the 90. I mean, that's just my guess, given the timing here, is the 3-month turnaround.
Yes, I would like the 3-month turnaround. And I also noticed, so, everybody cuts and pastes when they do these things, right? They take the best of their last presentation. In the MRI packet on page 6, they say something about beginning February of 2021, right? Well, that's long gone. So, that's in their packet, but we know that's not what they intended, right? So I would like for them to begin the 90-day search as soon as we can come to that the contract agreement.
Right. Yeah, because you got to realize, of course, this is going to bring us into the holidays too. That 90 days is going to be chopped up a bit by the holidays, so you may actually be looking at something in January as opposed to December, but who knows?
Well, they do mention a 30-day application period, a search for 30 days, which we're in a good shape. That'll be the month of October. So we're not in the holiday in Thanksgiving or Christmas yet. It'll be on us when we start to narrow down that we're in that, holiday scheduling issues then. But their actual search, it's good timing, I think.
So I know I suggested the language from Randy Frank, but I thought it was positive. I didn't think anyone was like, no, let's not do that. I just want to make sure that I don't want to think that it's going to happen and then it doesn't really happen.
I'm willing to ask for that addition, a follow-up meeting.
Do you see that page? It's on.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think that also holds us as a council to certain standards as well within that. Like if we say we want them to be here 3 months into the new manager's tenure, right? That it also holds the council to some higher standard.
Yeah.
Not just the manager.
But I also think that we could benefit from a professional performance review that we would have. We don't that bank of expertise we can draw upon. This is a great opportunity to do that.
I agree.
So, Mike, practically speaking, if we do authorize you to execute the contract on our behalf,
It would actually, I wouldn't be signing it. I would, authorize it for signature. And Terry couldn't sign it either.
so how would that take place?
It'll be the council president who will be signing it.
Gotcha.
And again, the other alternative is we'll just bring the whole thing back to you 2 weeks from now, and however you want to do it, whatever you're most comfortable with.
I'd rather get going. I think we know what we've seen and adding that piece, the follow-up piece is, something we want to do. So that's clear. That's clear to Mike to execute it that way.
So, practically speaking, how soon after contract execution would we be meeting with this firm for the first time? After the next meeting or prior to that?
The the contract would be ready prior to the next meeting.
After contract execution, which means it's signed by both parties
Gotcha.
to be performed, at some time subsequent to that, the council would meet with the external search firm. When would that take place?
Well, in this case, they tell you when they would meet with you. Okay, so Terry's just telling me that Colleen has put together a sample timeline of what would happen next, and we'll make that available. They don't have that yet, right? Colleen, they don't have that timeline?
They have one.
We said the week of, probably after your council regular session, so the week of the 12th, but it would depend on the firm, and as Michael said, when he speaks with them in negotiating the contract, when they could start, but it could be right after your next session.
Got it.
So it could be within a couple of 3 weeks.
That meeting would take place in closed executive session, Mike? Or no?
So you can't have a closed executive session until the firm gives you names, right? So you're not going to be able to have the first meeting. You can talk in general with them. They can give you a presentation. You can ask questions, all of that. That has to be done in public. When they get to the point, this is a little different from the process the last time around because Attorney General Nerona has a whole different set of rules and guidelines when it comes to exactly the situation of town and city councils appointing their managers. The only time you're allowed to go into executive session is when there are names. And for obvious reasons, a lot of people who will be applying are not going to want their current bosses to know that they're applying. So that's why the Attorney General has said that part of it can be an executive session. But when you want to discuss timelines and policies and expectations of what they're going to be bringing you and added value and all of that, that has to be done in public session.
Mm-hmm.
So potentially as an item on the agenda for the next meeting?
It is.
Got it, okay.
I will make a phone call right away on this. Okay. Once you vote.
All right, do I hear a motion?
Motion to appoint MRI Incorporated to serve as the executive search firm to assist in the selection of the town manager.
Second?
Do we need to have the amount?
Oh.
An amount not to exceed $25,000.
Mike, do we have to add to authorize you to write the contract and have it executed on our I don't know.
You can't. I do that all the time, though. When you vote on contracts, I'm the one who looks at them, but I think it's okay.
Do I need to add in addition, the amount, in an amount not to exceed $24,000? $23,500?
Actually, it's $25,000.
You need money for advertising.
25?
25,000.
Sorry, 25,000. I said 24, you mean?
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion, we have a second. Any further discussion?
No.
Anyone opposed? That motion carries unanimously. And that brings us to the end of tonight's agenda, I believe.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
So moved. Any discussion? Anyone opposed? All right, that motion carries unanimously. And this meeting is adjourned at 9:28.